Hello, it's Rebecca and today is another book review day, and this is my 15th book for the BookaShelf 2016 reading challenge. I will leave a link down below in the description to explain what the challenge is about, but it's to read 26 books over the year with each book coming from a different category, and all of the categories begin with a different letter of the alphabet. So the book that I've been reading comes from the category of C, a book with a cat on the cover. And so I have been reading Hate That Cat by Sharon. So I will read you the blurb and then talk to you about the book. Jack is back at school and thankfully Miss Stretchberry is his teacher again. Jack likes her, but he disagrees with her about one thing: cats. Jack hates cats. Or at least he does until he gets to know some kittens and read some poetry about cats. In this sequel to the much loved Love That Dog, Sharon continues the story of Jack, Miss Stretchberry and their very poetic relationship. So as it says, this is a sequel to Love That Dog, which I read and reviewed earlier in the year, and it's a lovely, lovely little book. It's kind of poetry, kind of a long story, kind of a diary. It's all mixed up. Every page looks like a poem. It's a very peculiar book, and every poem has its own date at the top, so it's like a journey through a diary, through a poem, but it tells a story. It's very, very interesting. So in Love That Dog, we meet Jack, who's at school and he doesn't like poetry, and his teacher is trying to teach the class poetry, and poetry's for girls. Doesn't want to do it, doesn't like it. But then she sparks something in him and he starts to write poetry. And so we meet Jack again in Hate That Cat, and they're reading poems about cats, and he doesn't like cats because he had a dog and he loved his dog very much. But then he slowly starts to change his mind, and he slowly starts to realise that there is something to love about cats. They're different from dogs, but they're special in their own way. And the thing that I really like about this book, it's so simple, so easy to read, but it's so insightful. And the fact that the voice of the book is a really young boy in, must be about 6, 7, 8 years old at school, and he's being introduced to some fantastic poets like Edgar Allan Poe, William Carlos Williams, T.S. Eliot, and learning to enjoy poetry. And that's one thing I struggled with at school, was poetry came across as this really highbrow, distant thing. Us lowly people on the ground couldn't understand it. We didn't know what was going on. What are they talking about? All these strange symbolic images and all this kind of stuff. We weren't taught to enjoy and appreciate poetry as just something really straightforward and something that can be understood. And even now, even though I've studied poetry, sometimes I read it and I think, oh, I don't know what that means. I must be really stupid, or I don't understand. And that's not what poetry is. Poetry is a way of telling stories and a way of expressing emotions and feelings and looking deep at something. And I know it's fiction, but I'm so glad this little boy is learning about poetry, and he starts to emulate these poets and starts to write in their style, and he's really interested and really wants to learn about them. And I can't really say much more. You do really have to read them in order. So read Love That Dog first and then Hate That Cat, and you'll just be transported into a really peculiar but really lovely world where you get to see things through a child's eyes who is both child and adult at the same time. He has childish responses to things. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing it. I don't like it. Don't understand it. I'm not doing it. And then he develops an enjoyment and a love for the thing that he just didn't want to do. And it is so beautifully written and so lovely. I can't really think of any other word for it. And by the end, he's happy with his poetry. He's happy with his cat. And he hasn't forgotten about his dog. but life changes and new things happen, and it's, like I say, it's just such a lovely, lovely read. It will barely take you any time at all, and I'm a slow reader, and it barely even took me, you know, 20 minutes to read this. And like I say, I'm a slow reader, so it'll probably take you about 5. But thoroughly enjoyed it. And they're the kind of books that you can just pick up and fall into and be surrounded by beautiful words and poetry, and yeah, so really, really enjoyed this one. So if you'd like to hear any of my other book reviews, then please subscribe to my channel. I put new videos out every time I've read a book. I sometimes do videos about other bookish things, writing advice, writing books, anything to do with that really. So if you're interested in any of those things, then please subscribe, and I will see you soon. Have a good day.